Hello, sports card collectors and investors. Hope everybody is having a good Thursday morning today. It's a little bit rainy here, kind of dismal, but hopefully it's going to warm up here a little bit. When I say hopefully, I don't want it to be 100 degrees, so I'll take what I can get with that. But anyway, I'm going to focus on a topic today. I'm excited because, like a lot of you, we're following kind of the news on sports in general, and for basketball fans, there's more and more positive news that is coming out about the league restarting. And so the latest that I read was basically that they're going to make a call right around June 1st as to whether or not to, not whether or not to start the season. It almost seems like, no guarantees, but it almost seems like a formality. It's not if the season will start, it's more of when the season is going to start back again. But it looks like they have an end goal of playing games in July. So, I think that they're going to start to kind of open up facilities like they have. I think practice facilities for some teams are open depending on which state they're in. And so I think they're going to try to kind of get players back into the fray in June with a goal of getting things back on track in July and finishing out the season, which is extremely exciting for me, and I'm sure all of you as well. There's always that risk that maybe the season is canceled, which, I never really agreed with that, just being that they were at the end. I mean, if they were at the beginning of a season, then maybe that would make some sense, but being that you're 65 games into the 82 game season, there's got to be a way to finish that out. There has to be a strategy to kind of make that happen, even if it's in stadiums that are empty. There's got to be a way to do that. So it looks like we are trending that way. And based on those news articles and kind of the things that are coming out, I want to focus on players that could be underrated that are likely on playoff teams. And so, because the thing is the thought is when the season reopens, we finish out a regular season, or maybe we go right into a tournament. And if you're just looking at where everybody's seated, I'd pick teams that are already seated to where they should be playoff teams. And I want to kind of go off of there. So, these are guys that not necessarily the stars. There are some, arguable stars on my list, but I'm focused on players that maybe are flying under the radar because there's other players that are getting more attention. And so, the idea is playoff time hits, if a team has success or even just the excitement of the playoffs, it could give the opportunity for that player to get a boost as far as their card prices go. So these are potential buys right now with the idea of, okay, well, maybe playoffs hit and you get some value there with a potential increase. So first player on my list is Kristaps Porzingis. And I'm really high on Porzingis. I think that, with all the attention that Luka gets, I think that Porzingis is highly underrated. To me, he's a fantastic player in the league. I think he's a perennial all-star in the league. And, he's just been kind of covered up because of the Luka mania, which makes total sense, and I get it. But, kind of like Scottie Pippen, not necessarily riding the coattails of Michael Jordan, but just being on the same team as Michael Jordan. Pippen was always a fantastic player. He's a Hall of Famer in his own right. And so, do I think that the Luka Porzingis duo is going to be Jordan and Pippen? I don't know if they're going to win 6 titles, but I really like their future in the NBA. I think that the Mavericks as a whole, they'll add a piece or two, and I think that they're right in the mix for a championship. I mean, offensively, they're right up there. I think we've talked about this in other videos. I think their offensive efficiency is number 1 in the NBA, or top 3 for certain. And this is the first year that Porzingis and Luka have played together. So, you have to think about that as well. I mean, even when LeBron went to Miami and when you've, bring guys together, it takes some time to get used to each other. Think about when these guys have a few years playing with each other, and they can read each other's minds. They're already pretty good at it. And, we're only half of a season in, roughly 3/4 of a season in. So I really, really like the upside of these guys. I'm trying to think of a world where, LeBron's 35 years old. The guy is not going to play forever. There's going to be a point where in the next couple of years where his play starts to slip. And I know that he is a genetic freak. I mean, heck, maybe he'll be playing at 40 years old the same way he is right now. But, Father Time always wins. And at some point, these guys, some of these guys that have, been on championship teams that have been kind of ruling the league, they're gonna start to age up, and then it's time for that next set of players, and that's where the the Luka and the Giannis and the Zion frenzy, comes into play. So I'm really high on the Mavericks' future. And, I think that Porzingis in the next few years, I think his stuff is going to really see a big boost. So I'm looking at Porzingis. I mean, even look at his base Prism. It's right at, $150 to $160 are the recent sales for his base Prism in a PSA 10. To me, I mean, if you're comparing that to Luka at $500 or $600, again, I know they're not the same player, but I think there's value there. And those have gone up even since, I mean, shoot, those were $70, $75 6 months ago. So you've already seen an increase. And I think that he's got legs to go even higher than that. I think there's some good value there. So I'm taking a hard look at Porzingis. Next, I've got Pascal Siakam with the Raptors. And, this guy is, again, I feel like no one really talks about him. Of course, they won a championship last year, and he was kind of on the front page. He was front page news. He had his coming out party. And this year it's just with all of the other players being talked about, the Raptors, after losing Leonard, they're kind of just an afterthought at this point. I feel like when it comes to NBA news and where the media focuses their attention, but the Raptors could make some noise in the playoffs. And if you look at his cards, I mean, raw base optic rookies are $4 or $5 for this guy. You've got cards that are, you've got rookie cards, not a ton of eBay sales that I could find, but there was a PSA 10. I believe it's 2016 Optic, which of course is the first year of Optic where his rookie card lies. And there was one that sold PSA 10 for about $100 here recently. But just being that particular set is hot, this guy gets hot. It's a great combination to me, especially if you're a raw card collector or investor and you like to flip raw cards. I really like the potential for his rookie cards. Those 2016 base optic rookies at $4 or $5. I mean, I think that those I'm going to be looking hard at those and seeing if there might be some value there. Next up, I've got Nikola Jokic with the Nuggets. And this is a guy where, talked a lot about last season. This season, I think he's had a little bit of a down year in comparison, and the Nuggets in general haven't been getting the same sort of media love. But he's a great player, and I feel like he's got some good years ahead of him. I was looking, his base Prism is similar to Porzingis. It's right in that for a PSA 10, right in that 150 range. Affordable. One of those players where you look 5 years down the road, who are going to be the guys that are that are hot in the league, and I think that this guy he's got room for growth too, and I wouldn't discount him, and as well as his teammates. So I've got kind of a duo here with the Nuggets. I've got Jokic, and then I've also got Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is another guy that was really hot beginning of the season, the basketball season. There was a lot of talk about him, and his cards were certainly selling, and I don't have the data to see if they have dropped since the beginning of the season, but there just seems to be value there. If you like Murray, he's a good young player. His optic rookie in a BGS 9.5, there's one that sold for $32 and a BGS 9.5. And then I saw there's also a recent sale, a select silver prism PSA 10 at $90. So those are not crazy prices. If you're looking at kind of those under the radar players, maybe you're like, what? I feel good about the amount of inventory I'm holding on the superstars, and I want to kind of look at some of the other players that are out there on these teams that could make some noise. And again, or for a potential flip, these could be longer term holds in that 3 to 5 year range, or it could be something where, hey, the playoffs hit, one of these teams gets hot, and the card goes up and you sell it. So I think that there's a few different options here. I like these players kind of in the short term and the long term. I think that they've got some viability. Next up, I'm looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder. A couple of players. The obvious one is Shai, and he's so I was looking at him. He's averaging 19.3 points per game, and then Danilo Gallinari, he's averaging 19.2 points per game. his cards aren't, there's not a lot of sales volume on his stuff, and that's where I was thinking, well, maybe there's some value there too. Again, I mean, if the Thunder can make some noise in the playoffs, and granted, I know that is easier said than done in the West with all the stacked teams, but hey, they go on a couple win streak, couple game winning streak. Some of these guys get hot, and just the excitement of basketball being back. I mean, he's got his 2008-2009 Topps Chrome and a PSA 10. There's only a few recent sales, only a couple recent sales, but they're $25 to $40, $25 to $35 for these. So you might not find many of them, but if you have that kind of saved in your searches, if that's a guy that, and I think that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to save them, and if one of these does pop up at $25, then hey, it's not much to invest in a guy that is on a playoff team for a PSA 10 rookie card. And then there's also, raw options, of course, that are a few bucks, for this guy. So again, if you're, a raw collector, a raw flipper, then that could be an option for you too. All right, guys, what do you think about these picks? So, I know that some of these are somewhat obvious, and I think that, you guys have been looking at, but, I see, we talk a lot about the Jason Tatums, the Trae Youngs, the Lukas, the LeBrons, a lot of these guys that are kind of those set players that are more, I think that because they're proven, they're more safe in our mind, as far as investment goes. And so for me, and I do have plenty of those types of folks, but I was just looking and doing some research, and I was just thinking, are there some players where you could strike while the iron is hot right before we go into playoff mode here in the next couple of months? For some possible quick flips or longer term holds if you want to. So, but anyway, thank you again for joining, guys. I appreciate it. We will be back with more videos to come, and have a great day. Take care.